Another team who's had a real upturn in fortunes and is scoring goals for fun is Fulham, which I don't think either of us saw coming on the pod a couple of weeks ago. But they're now in a position where they're coming off the back of two 5-0 wins. 10 goals, zero conceded in their last two games. And this is a team that we were a bit worried about after the summer, isn't it, Dave? Because we wondered how they were ever going to replace Mitrovic's goal. Turns out they'll spread them across the team and get all of them in two games, right?
Do you know what's crazy? If I was to say to you, obviously in the last 4 games they've scored 16 goals. The previous 9 they only managed 7, which
So
is
what's
something.
changed? What's changed then? Because that's mental.
It's hard to pick it apart though, isn't it? Maybe we'll have some Fulham fans obviously comment on it and say, and they can tell us what has changed, because it just seems like by a switch of a button, this all began really obviously on the back of that 3-1 loss to Villa. Um,
Keep mentioning Villa winning. This is great, Dave.
but that actually marked quite an important occasion in Raul Jimenez actually breaking his Premier League duck and scoring his first goal of the season.
Mm,
And since then, he's obviously managed to score. Well, he scored 4 goals in his last 5 games, and
mm.
I think one of the main questions for us really, and I think we kind of written him off, haven't we? I think he
Yeah,
had
I
that
think so.
really unfortunate injury, which
Mm,
was, I think it was unthinkable really to think whether he would come back from that. We've seen
mm,
players, have horrendous injuries. Petr Cech being one of them, didn't really seem to be the same sort of player after he had that injury himself.
mm.
Um, but he's really looking a real threat, and I think that the goal that he scored this weekend was a typical Jimenez goal.
Yeah, lovely,
Um,
wasn't it?
yeah, real fox in the box, and he's starting to show signs, and it almost feels like it's actually really triggered a change
Mm,
in their fortunes. And since he scored that goal, they've
mm.
been scoring goals for fun, like you mentioned. But
Well, the thing is, a lot of our attention in the summer was drawn to the Mitrovic deal, and I think we can all understand why. But actually, Fulham, either purposefully or not, did some really impressive things by keeping hold of Marco Silva. That was vital, and they did that very well. They tied Willian down to a new contract when it looked like he might be moving on as well, and he's been brilliant as well, which I don't think a lot of us saw coming quite to that extent. Uh, the Paulinia deal fell through for whatever reason, and he was vital in this game again. Whether they can hold on to him in January is another question, but fantastic for him to be contributing when it looked so certain he was going to leave. And the other one, Alex Iwobi, who I think last season was a bit of a bright spark in that Everton team at times. It was big business for him to move to Fulham. I think it caught a few people off guard, but he looks really good for them, doesn't he, Dave?
yeah, particularly, I think he definitely seems like he's playing a bit more of an offensive role in this Fulham team as
Mm,
what he was last year, and we're starting to see some of the talent that he was able to showcase in early on in his career at Arsenal, and we saw
mm,
how he was really threatening in those attacking areas, and he's putting it all together really, especially of late. Obviously, scored a couple of really good goals, and got a couple of assists, I think, in the last 2 or 3 games as well. Um, and it just seems like everything's falling into place for them at the minute. Another
mm.
player, Tom Kearney, who's not had the most amount of minutes
Yeah.
in the last couple of seasons for Fulham. But he came in this game, was absolutely outstanding. He got man of the match, I think, and he completed 104 passes out of 110 passes, which is mental.
Crazy, isn't it? He's such a club hero as well. Like Fulham fans will
Yeah,
absolutely adore seeing him succeed. And there's a few of them knocking about now that have been at Fulham for a little while and they're established themselves as real fan favourites. Harry Wilson being another, and we talked about a typical Jimenez goal. Wilson's outstanding goal feels like quite a typical Wilson goal, doesn't it?
I mean, he only scores outstanding goals, doesn't he? I don't think
Yeah, pretty much,
he
pretty
scores.
much. So what's Fulham's aim for the season now? Then, do you think?
Well, I think is it the 10th now? Is it?
Yeah.
So I think there would have been a lot of fear amongst fans, particularly before
Mm,
this last 4 games. Let's not forget, obviously, even before these 2 games, they obviously put up a real fight against Liverpool.
mm,
Obviously beat a really solid Wolves team the game before that as well, and
mm.
just shows they're obviously fighting for the cause. I think if they could be aiming for sort of top 10, that would be, I think that would definitely exceed most supporters' expectations, considering how they did start the league campaign.
Mm,
Like you mentioned, there was big questions about how they were going to create enough chances, enough opportunities,
mm.
finish opportunities, but they don't seem to be struggling anymore.
Yeah,
I think
that's true. But they're an ambitious side, Fulham, I think. I think you can see by some of the recruitment they've had, and even like we talked about the managerial choice, they seem like they're on the up. And actually, even the players that they were lining up to replace Paulinho if he'd gone on, it was massively talked about that they were basically done with Scott McTominay coming in. And then look at the form he showed this season. Fulham have obviously got an eye. I wouldn't be surprised to see Fulham pushing for maybe a Conference League space. If we keep seeing, obviously, teams like Brighton are going to be competing in Europe throughout the season, whether they can keep it up. West Ham are pretty inconsistent, as we saw here. So there are teams to be caught up.
I think my
Is
only
it too
worry
much to think?
I think their squad's quite thin. So if they pick
Mm,
up an injury to a key player, or if they lose Jimenez, if they lose William, I think William might have picked up a small knock in this game. Hopefully
yeah.
it's nothing serious because they've been outstanding in these last few
Mm,
games. Then that'll be key for them really, just staying
mm,
fresh. But I feel like they probably need to bring the striker in January, and
yeah.
if they can do that, there's no reason why they can't push on.
This week's content is brought to you by Kiro and Kiwi Photography. This creative duo will help bring your business vision into life with their excellent photography skills. They are fast, reliable, and excellent to work with. You can see they recently did some photos with us as a podcast, and we were thrilled with the results. So, for any of your photography needs, please go to Kiro and Kiwi's photography page, and you can make inquiries on their website below.